What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
When I think about people that I've crossed paths with in my life, our guest today is somebody that in a very short period of time, even though we've known each other for a long time, has had a profound effect on me, as well as countless leaders across the United States. Stan Goss has developed a coaching practice in his career that literally is considered one of the largest coaching practices of anybody in the city of Houston, which, by the way, is the fourth largest city in the United States. And he's done so because of his background as a leader and his desire to move into the role of mentor. And as he talks about today, shift into the role of wise sage. And when I think about Stan, there was this morning, there's two things. Stan has this gift of being able to look at situations and help people reflect on what is obstacles and spin those into opportunities. And that way they can be sort of chiseled into who God created them to be. And so I'm excited to be able to introduce you all to Stan Goss. So Stan, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah,
really a blessing. I'm grateful.
Yeah, me too. I was looking forward to getting a chance to spend some time with you. I've had a chance to watch you go from being the leader of Goss and Associates, a top-level executive search firm, to move into a consulting, coaching type of career later on in your career. Tell us a little bit about the practice that you've built as far as serving as a coach to C-suite executives across the United States.
Okay, I would love to do that. When people ask me how I got to be a coach or what qualified me to be a coach, I started my coaching career at the age of 52. So as we know, coaching, executive coaching, is really a second or third career move for most people. You and I know that gray hair is an asset in our work.
Yeah.
And while there are a lot of aspiring younger coaches, and I love them all, there's something about having experience in life that really matters for a coach. And my answer is, how to get to be a coach is I always wanted to be a coach. When I was a young man, I had a tragic childhood, and my athletic coaches kind of wrapped their arms around me and blessed me. But I was told at the time I was too smart to be a coach. I should be an engineer or a lawyer. And I tried all those things. So I kind of wandered around in the wilderness till I reached 52. And then a unique set of circumstances provided all the opportunity for me. I was actually working for one of the top senior executive outplacement firms in the country here in Houston. I was running their senior executive outplacement service. So I was working with senior executives that had been terminated or outplaced. And so there was a lot of career transition coaching in that. They were all in the question of what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And it was a very natural place for me. I actually started coaching I call them talented but difficult executives. That was always the label. And I would go into an organization, it was an intervention. Sometimes the intervention changed the person or the organization. Sometimes it didn't, but it was just a matter of, loving on the person and holding up the mirror and developing the tools to help them see themselves. And I learned right away that the most effective coaching really happens with people that are open to that. These are top athletes, I call them, who are coachable. And I just started a learning path of learning about development, creating tools. And over time, I was able to build with all God's grace. I'm going to tell you, this sounds like me, but it's really a question of God's grace that guided me through all that. And I actually had a multi-million-dollar practice with my office in my home. The clients paid all my expenses, my travel, my hotels, everything. And I worked with a broad variety of companies. I wasn't an industry specialist. I worked with presidents of universities, medical schools, oil companies, publishing companies. It was a broad array. When people asked me what I was about, I always said, well, I'm an avid student of two things. I'm an avid student of leadership. And I have read, I couldn't put a number to it, hundreds, maybe thousands of books on the subject of leadership. That's a passion I have. I'm an avid student of human behavior. I'm just fascinated by why people do the stuff they do. And
Yeah.
I was able, it's just a mystery, but it's a learning, and I developed some great tools. I was certified in probably a couple dozen assessment tools. My tool of choice was always, plug for Berkman, the Berkman. It's a great tool. I used it that way. And I, over time, worked with um, uh, presidents, C-level executives, uh, senior teams, and with the leader of the organization. And it was always a process of dialogue, and I called it holding up the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
When I would sit down with a new client, I would say, I'm here to help you achieve what you want, as long as it's doable, viable, legal, and possible. Now, what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
And
glad you put that legal part in there. That's an important part of it then. So I got, so
well,
it sounds like, Stan, that the people that you coached, these executives, these are very talented people, correct?
yes,
Yeah, very
absolutely.
talented people. Now, here's my question. The reason I want to spend some time with you today is because of you have people, and I believe everyone, possesses some level of talent in some space. In some
Right,
spaces, people are more talented than others, but everybody has at least
right.
some level. But what happens is when we look at career development, we look at, especially from a leadership standpoint, as we climb the ranks, one of the battlegrounds that we fight in is called the imposter syndrome.
Right.
It's this atmosphere of confidence, this atmosphere of can I go and do something new or different? I can't do that because if I go to that space, I can't stand on this platform of what I know and where my experience lies or what's dealing with. And there's a battleground that fought that. Were some of the leaders, was that one of the issues that you found, the people you ran into that you were asked to coach that wrestled with?
Uh, Constantly. I was having a conversation with my wife one day, and I said, I am amazed at what's going on here. I work with these people, men, and later on, lots of brilliant senior women at the top. I know they're smarter than I am. I know they have more power than I do. They make a whole lot more money than I do. I'm just waiting for them to find me out.
Yeah. So in other words, you're telling me you fought that, which, and the reason why it's an important aspect to me, because I'm the same way. My parents spoke French before they spoke English, came out of South Louisiana, moved to Houston, Texas, did not have a very vibrant college career. I mean, I can list or whatever. And so I kept waiting for the shoe to fall. I said, this guy's, he needs to go back to Louisiana. I mean, what's he doing here? And so
So
that's,
when we're in this conversation, as you know, there will always be two elements in the dialogue. There will be fear, there will be possibilities. So I speak a lot on this. I teach a lot on this, on how to, there's an emotional intelligence conversation around fear and all that kind of thing. And so I did a video when I was actually spent some time with NSA. It was a great organization. I thought I wanted to go more that direction. I never did, but so I made a video with this fear, and I was sharing it with one of my clients. Now, I had been his coach. He was a big time executive in a big oil company. He was part of a merger, and he publicly made $250 million out of the merger. And I was still his coach when he moved to his new, bigger company. And I shared that video with him one day. It was a short, and he read the video, he looked at it, and he said, well, I saw your video. And I saw that part about where you talked about you were going to be found out. And he said, well, I found you out and you have what I want because you're the only one that brings to me, truth, honesty, concern. You will tell me the truth. And even when I don't want to hear it. So, it's kind of a nice conversation about having been found out. And that's
Hmm.
really the ultimate promise. We will be found out. And when we approach our profession or our vocation, or for me, as it evolved over time, became more of a ministry. And that's all I have today. It's my life is my ministry, but it's full of these incredible stories that seem to interest people. Um, what will be found is valuable, useful, unique. Um, I had to learn a lot. I had my own personal issues. I had a tragic childhood. I kind of wandered around in the world carrying a lot of stuff, if you will, about that. I had a great mask. I had a great facade. I looked so good. And I'm a pretty good looking guy and I'm a pretty smart guy. But what has evolved over time, and it's a journey, everyone goes through their own journey. The way I describe it is I used to spend so much time, energy, and thought on trying to figure out ways that you would like me.
Hmm.
I was the ultimate people pleaser.
Yeah, I call
It
it
just,
approval-seeking missile.
yes, sir. And that was me. And I was really good at it. But as this journey has evolved for me, I reached a point where I don't spend any time, energy, thought, worrying about whether you like me or not. The irony is, people really like me. Most of them do. And if the ones that don't, it's not my problem.
Hmm.
But I spend a lot more time in that part of my faith, being true and loyal in the faith walk that I'm in.
Yeah,
But I think it's an important part because, as you know, every coaching gig you have, there will be a fear factor in it. There will be something that people want. This is where the whole idea of an unconditional confidence enters in. Um, and so can I just walk into that space a
Yeah,
little
because
bit?
thank you. I was trying to figure my transition to move you there because I remember you,
Okay.
you spoke at the National Speakers Association. Matter of fact, you dropped the acronym NSA. And for somebody who's not a speaker, that's not NASA. That's the National Speakers Association. And we were blessed to have you speak a couple months ago at one of our monthly meetings. And you used this phrase as you were talking about the importance of unconditional confidence. And to go in that direction, what I'd love to do is kind of start off, what's the definition of conditional confidence that's the antithesis of unconditional confidence?
Well, we generally operate with conditional confidence. It's simply, if I know what to do, then I'll do it. It's am I competent in my field? Am I knowledgeable? Have I done something like it before? Do I have success to show? And most of our MO in the world, whether it's in an organizational world or in my life, is based on how confident I am about it. And I'm confident because I practiced it. And I have results to show, I have metrics, I have outcomes. And I will confidently, but the word that wraps itself around all this is change. When people ask me, what do I talk about with my clients? I sort of condense it into 3 bullets. We talk about communication, we talk about relationships, because relationships are the core and essence of leadership. And we talk about change. Now, change in itself is a very interesting subject because, and by the way, my guru, the work I use, I've worn the book out, is called Change the World by Robert Quinn at the University of Michigan. And it's about transformational change. So the way he lays it out, there are two types of change in the world. There's transactional change, and that's where we know what we want to do. We know what we have. We set up an action plan. We check the steps, and boom, shakalaka, we change something. We change the phone system. We change the org chart. We change the computer system. And it's a matter of knowing. Now that's the normal change that happens in our lives. But transformational change is a very different thing because it's not that. It starts out with, we know what we want. We have this vision, we have this dream, we have this possibility, and we don't know how to get there. We just don't know. We've never done it before. It seems impossible. Other people did it, I didn't. And so the process entails this idea of unconditional confidence. And it's where the leader says, there's a big we in this, know what's the possibility is. We know what the vision is. We know what the dream is, but we don't know what to do. Now that's where it starts. It starts right there with that baffling, bewildering term, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I made a whole lot of money by being very good at saying, I don't know. You know, I'd interview, I'd look at different possibilities, companies would talk to me, and they always go, well, what are you going to do? Many times I'd be competing with these high-level national consulting firms who would roll in with their, 20 PowerPoint processes. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Here's what we're going to do. And we're going to charge you X million.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would talk to the client and they'd say, well, what are you going to do? And I always say, I don't know yet. What will happen here is that and I would work the process that it's a whole, I love to teach these processes and models. We don't have time for it here, but I'm always open to share that with people because it's so profound to have the mindset and the worldview of that I don't know, but that unconditional confidence that we will learn our way through this together.
Yeah. Is it true, Stan, as you were talking about this, the thought that I was writing notes over here had to do with it's critical to go into that space is you have to go to a place where you are authentic, you're real, you are kind of who you are, as opposed to trying to project who you want to be perceived as being.
Right. Well, what I've never held myself to be an expert on anything, but I have a great deal of facility with these processes.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to bring people together, create dialogue. As you know, the big touchdown for a coach, the massive is when the client goes, oh, it's the epiphany.
Aha.
Now I get it. Now I get it. And they will say, my wife's been telling me that for years. My boss has been telling me that for years. My employees have been telling me that for years. I just didn't get it because it requires an insight. There's something that was in them that was waiting to be revealed that requires a different process to get it there. So, transformational change is, and look, in the world, that's all there is change.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You're changing, I'm changing. Some of my change I'm enjoying more than others.
Yeah, but that's actually the role of a leader. I mean, if change
Yes.
is not needed, they don't need a leader. I mean, people can operate kind of on their own, and so that's why when you talk about a coach, I want to make sure if somebody's listening to this, they're not tuning out. Well, I'm not a coach. In today's time, as a leader,
right.
That is the key component that people are looking for in their leaders is, can you coach me to be better at my job? Can you coach me to get different and better results?
Absolutely.
And so, thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.